We're working very hard to expedite the longer process of developing a vaccine. We're also moving with maximum speed to develop therapies so that we can help people recover as quickly as possible. We have a lot of recovery going on. We want to see if we can advance that. It's likely that therapies will be available before a vaccine is actually ready, and we'll seek to bring all effective treatments to market as soon as possible. Some very good work has been done on the vaccine, however, and they have some good progress, and you'll be able to ask a couple of questions of the folks here. We're also working with Congress to ensure that America has what it needs to respond to this challenge. It's a great challenge, but everybody's responding very well. Since the start of the outbreak, my administration has taken the most aggressive action in history to protect our citizens, including closing our borders very early, a lot earlier than people wanted us to do. And that turned out to be a good decision. I ordered sweeping travel restrictions, increased travel advisory levels, established screening measures, and imposed historic quarantines. We have quarantines all over the country, a lot of.
I just wanted to play that for you because you have been hearing, I'm sure, from various Democrats and left-wing pundits and journos that Trump says it's a hoax and he has no plan. How can any human being with a functioning brain think that that's an intelligent thing to say? He certainly has a plan. The plan is being enacted, and you would not enact a plan on this scale if you really thought that this was a hoax. Of course he doesn't think it's a hoax, but the truth doesn't matter to people who hate Trump. Everything is an opportunity to bash Trump. That's all that matters, even when we're facing a pandemic that has people really scared. Now, I keep saying I think that it's going to get worse before it gets better, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as some are projecting. When you hear healthcare professionals, people at the top of the federal health emergency preparedness apparatus, CDC, NIH, Dr. Anthony Fauci. I remember I did an interview with him maybe 2 years ago. We're talking about flu season and how people don't realize how bad flu season is. And I've been somebody worried about a pandemic for a long time. I think this is an area where we should have more research done. I think it should be. This is just my personal feeling on this. We should be embarrassed. Humanity should be embarrassed at this point that we don't have a cure for the common cold. Like, we can't figure this out. Think of all the things we knew. We can't cure the common cold. We don't have some way of shutting that down. We just accept that everybody, by the way, that's not a minor thing. Billions and billions and billions of dollars a year of productivity lost because of that. So, and I'm somebody who also thinks that it would be interesting to put out bounties for cures for things. I mean, I think that'd be worthwhile. We're paying $7 or $8 billion a year to the CDC. If somebody could come up with a cure for the common cold, it would be worth it for humanity, for productivity, for all of us. Give them a $5 billion bounty on that one, $3 billion bounty, whatever it is. Whatever you think would actually get it done. Because now we see, who do we turn to cure this and to treat this? Everyone's saying, oh, the CDC, the CDC. Yeah, they do good research. They're important. They look at this stuff. But who do we think is really going to be, who are going to be the ones that cure, if it's possible, or vaccinate us with something that will prevent the transmission of coronavirus? Pharmaceutical companies. Wait a second. President Trump had a meeting with big pharma representatives yesterday, and all I hear from Democrats all the time about how terrible the pharmaceutical companies are. I keep hearing about how they're so awful, and all they do is gouge people, and there's nothing to be praised about. And we legitimately, there's a lot of criticism leveled at Purdue Pharma and some of these companies that were putting OxyContin and other opioids out there. That's a separate issue, and that does deserve a lot of accountability still. But in terms of treating diseases, president's bringing in the biggest pharma company executives, saying, "Hey guys, what can you do for us here?" We often forget that we have won wars because of the private sector, right? I mean, yeah, the government mobilizes the military, but it is actually our ability to produce at a high level. It is our productivity as a nation that has been so critical in our success in some of the most important endeavors we've had, including fighting wars, and now we see dealing with a war on a pandemic, which is what we're really facing. Trying to come up with a way to prevent this from being a disease that Yeah, could this end up killing hundreds of thousands of people in this country over the course of the next 12 to 18 months? It absolutely could. I don't think that will happen, but I don't know. Nobody knows. I like to tell you that when it's true. Nobody really knows. Dr. Fauci and others at the NIH and the CDC, they're trying to take the most, they want the greatest degree of precaution, and they want people to be in the mindset of preparing for the worst scenario. So don't expect them to go out and be like, yeah, we're all going to be okay. Trump takes a little more of the, hey, it's going to be all right. Let's everybody calm down about this a little bit. We're on this. We're going to do the best we can with this. And, that's why the politicization of this that's occurring is just, I guess we have to expect this from Democrats. We're not supposed to think that they're any better than this, that they're any more ethical than this. Nonetheless, it's pretty gross when you hear it. I mean, we pulled this together for you. Producer Mark, play clip 20. Here's how Democrats talk about the Trump administration responding to coronavirus. Play 20.
We have a crisis of coronavirus, and President Trump has no plan.
What he's doing is late, too late, anemic.
Mr. Trump is late.
As soon as this virus started cropping up elsewhere in the world, we should have been on top of it.
Do you trust, and should Americans trust, President Trump to deal with this crisis?
No.
This is an administration that does not believe in science, and so I'm not surprised that he's completely clueless.
Look, the president we know is not a scientist, and that's a nice way to put it. He doesn't even believe in science.
This president hasn't allowed his scientists to speak. The idea that the experts are not allowed to speak, the president has silenced them, Dr. Fauci.
I'm not being muzzled. I was cleared here, and here I am talking to you, and I'll give you the whole truth the way I always have.
That last one, that's Fauci obviously saying that he hasn't been muzzled. I had to deal with that idiocy on the Bill Maher show where everyone was laughing about how Pence won't let Fauci say anything. And I said, no, that's not true. And everyone just, the hyena squad there, the crowd of trained SEALs all clapping for, oh, Trump's so bad, Trump's so... I guess people really have no shame at their own stupidity as long as they think they're on the right team. Nothing matters to them. The facts, the truth, nothing matters. It's all just owning Drumpf. Make sure you trash Trump at every possible opportunity. It's really hard to miss the way the rebound in the markets. Now, the markets are just a gauge of sentiment, and it's not like the stock market does really well for a day or two. We don't have to worry about coronavirus anymore. But if you look at what has happened here, last week, the plunging markets, Paul Krugman, Dow 25,000. He was all excited about it. The plunging markets were viewed as a sign that Trump's not so good on the economy, that he's not in control of coronavirus, that everything is going to crap. And, the markets dropped, 3,000 points in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And then you come back this week, and in one day, the markets came back almost 50% what they dropped last week. That was yesterday. And just by way of comparison, when the 3,000 point drop had finished on last week, front page in the New York Times, Washington Post, do you think that either of those newspapers yesterday had on their front page prominent coverage of the Dow recovering 50% in one day? Nope. Now, why do we think that is? Do we think that there was an honest discussion in the editorial room there, the Washington Post, the New York Times, they're like, it's a big story when the market goes down. When the market rockets back up, though, that's just not really something people need to hear about. Of course not. It's all about creating the negative perception of the administration and allowing Democrats to capitalize on that. And then on page, C17 or something, for those who still read newspapers, that's where they'll put the Dow had a big day today. There's no honesty in this. There's no attempt to cover any of this fairly. One thing that I thought was so noteworthy from our perspective is Trump is asked whether or not it's even safe for him to continue to hold rallies. Here's what he said. Play 9.
Well, these were set up a long time ago, and others are. I mean, you could ask that to the Democrats because they're having a lot of rallies. They're all having rallies. That's what they're doing. They're campaigning.
But do you think it's safe? Are you worried at all?
I think it's very safe, yeah. I think it's very safe.
I just want to know if journalists are going around asking every Democrat campaigning for the presidency, do you think it's safe? Do you think it's safe to keep doing this? Are you putting the public at risk by doing this? Maybe some of them will ask that question, but they definitely asked Trump. excuse me, sir, are you being reckless by continuing with your political campaigning while this pandemic is occurring? Trump gets that question. I just, look, if I find a Democrat gets asked that question, I'll play that on the show too. I'm trying to keep it real here. I'm not trying to do what the Democrats do and skew it to one side unnecessarily, unfairly. But I mean, what's going to happen here? We're going to have a total shutdown of public life because there's a respiratory virus out there with at worst, from what we know so far, a 2% mortality rate. I keep saying fatality. That's not something that would be in keeping with the resilience of the American people and with the way we've approached these situations in the past. But we just have to wait and see how well the administration is able to handle this. And also, we have to be prepared for the fact that no matter what they do, we've got 6 people dead in Washington state right now. As I said, over 10,000 have already died from the flu this year. You didn't even hear about that till now, right? No one even pays attention. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people die from flu every year in this country. 120 to 150,000 die in accidents every year in this country. Okay, I mean, people are we're losing people left and right. This is just the nature of life. This is what happens. It's a question of how what the media feels is a really important story to cover when it comes to any individual human death. And clearly they're going to tell us about each and every coronavirus death as it comes along in this political season, because it's just what they do. Look, this is what they do with the military as well. When there's a Republican in office, everybody that comes back from a war zone must be, we must know about it. We must see the photo. And by the way, I have no problem with that whatsoever. We should know the cost of putting our soldiers in harm's way. That's fine. I mean, I think that sometimes the way that, the Democrat media does it is exploitative and wrong. But just as a general rule, I do think, we should know every time we lose somebody, we should know. Did you see that happening when we were losing hundreds of Marines under the Obama administration? Dying in southern Afghanistan in Helmand province in Kandahar so that Obama could look like a tough guy after he fired the best 4-star general he had in theater because some members of his staff made fun of Obama not knowing a damn thing about the military? Yeah. There wasn't a lot of coverage of it. Where was the anti-war movement then? Wasn't a lot of coverage of that. Politicization of military deaths. Democrats do that, and you're going to see a grotesque politicization of every single death from the coronavirus. You will know about it. They'll probably run photographs of the people on the front pages of newspapers. They want to make it as clear as possible. And not because they care so much about these people. That's just not true. We know this from the way they cover other things. We know this from the lack of interest in, how many people have died from influenza. No, they're going to do it because they view it as a body count attributable to Trump. That's what's going to happen. Even though we have to remember there's only so much the administration can do. Right? They're taking these measures. I saw Chuck Schumer tweeted out this thing of, more funding for the CDC. I got to do this. And I got to. It's all crap. It's not going to stop anyone from getting coronavirus. It's ridiculous. They don't have any good ideas to prevent the spread. They don't have any. Trump's doing all the things that a responsible person, that a responsible administration would do. They're just not going to give him any credit for it. And remember this, no matter what, you've seen this with the economy, you've seen this with the way they approach everything with the Trump administration, no matter what the end result here is for the next, let's say, 6 months, they will claim that this was Trump's Katrina, he fell down on the job, and if there are 200 people that are dead from corona or 2,000 people that are dead from corona at the end of this, doesn't matter, they're going to say, due to Trump's failure, due to his lack of belief in science, which is really of all the anti-Trump talking points, that to me is among the very dumbest. But a lot of people think they're smart when they say it.
And when we talk about an agenda for the American people, our campaign does not sweep the important issues under the table. We've got to be honest with the American people, even if they don't agree with us. Now, Donald Trump, that great and brilliant scientist, after years of intensive study, after reading journal after journal, after turning off Fox TV and studying the issue, he has concluded that climate change is a hoax.
Has Bernie Sanders wowed us with his scientific knowledge? Has Bernie Sanders managed to convince anybody that he has much knowledge of anything other than very rudimentary Marxist theory? And how to be a demagogue, how to be essentially the guy on the street corner that just says, blame other people for all your problems. Don't take personal responsibility for anything. This is easy, by the way. It's not hard. It's not difficult to say those things. I could write all of Bernie Sanders' speeches. He shouldn't even have speechwriters. It's always the same speech. The rich, the millionaires, the billionaires, they're going to take from you. And why can't we have what every other country has? Like, every other country doesn't have it. We don't want to be these other countries. You don't know what you're talking about. I mean, you just get on the list like the same thing every time. I've never once heard Bernie Sanders give an answer to any question. I've said, wow, that was really insightful. That really makes a lot of sense. I'm impressed by that. Never. And there are Democrats who will say things like, oh, yeah, there's some truth to that, or I understand where they're coming from. Not Bernie Sanders. But on this question of climate change being a hoax, I think it's pretty, we've got, this is a side note for many of you. We have this plastic bag ban here that just went into effect in New York, and I'm in New York City doing this show. This is so stupid. And I just wish that there was a way that we could have like an open public debate about how completely, utterly annoying and meaningless and counterproductive this thing is. It does not help the things they think it will help. And it's an annoyance now that you have to deal with every day. Every day you'll have to deal with this annoyance. In New York State, by the way, it's not just New. So my folks up in WGY Albany, for example, you guys are going to have this too, and gals. Now when you go to the store, you go, oh, I'm out of milk. I want to get, you better make sure that you pay the 5 cents that some counties are going to institute for paper bags too. As if that's going to stop anybody. And now I guess I'm supposed to walk around with a tote bag on my shoulder all the time? Producer Mark, do you even have a tote bag? Like, how are you going to go grocery shopping now?
Well, I already have a bunch of reusable bags.
You're reusable.
The
reusable sounds manlier. That sounds more like alpha than a tote bag.
The town I live on Long Island in Long Beach already had a 5-cent charge for the plastic bags. You live in like Commeyville. I know a lot of nice places are Commeyville though. Oh, yeah, it is a nice place.
Yeah,
but I, as I've said, I don't mind the reusable bag. I can hold more.
You're going to tell me you never have a situation where you're like, I need to get myself a 6-pack of brewski, and now I can't because I don't have the reusable bag on me?
Can't you just carry it with the handle?
Okay, maybe you need a few 6-packs.
No? All right, I mean, you're not going to put that in a plastic bag, though.
All right.
This is a bad example.
This doesn't annoy you? Yeah, I've just realized that. This doesn't annoy you at all, though, this plastic bag ban? You're not that bad on this one?
I'm not that mad. Like, I'd be more mad if it was a plastic straw ban.
Groucho Mark over here does not care. I don't know what to say about this. The plastic straw ban is insane.
And they're still giving out food, bags with food orders and stuff like that. So
okay, well, at least we got that. Our Chinese food will come in plastic bags.
Yeah.
So here is the truth. When you listen to the scientists, what they tell you is that not only is climate change real and caused by human activity and already causing devastating problems in our country and around the world, what they tell us is they have, in fact, underestimated the severity in which climate change is ravaging the planet. They've underestimated the speed in which the polar ice caps are melting and the oceans are rising. They've underestimated the degree to which the country is seeing more and more drought, more and more extreme weather disturbances. They have, according to the United Nations, now believe that if we don't get our act together by the end of this century, there will be hundreds of millions of climate refugees. People who can no longer stay in their communities because there's no water to drink or land to grow their crops.
This is bonkers, but this is Bernie Sanders, certainly close to, if not the front runner of the Democratic Party right now for the presidential nomination. He's certainly number 2, and some would say he's still number 1. And I think after today, Super Tuesday votes tallied, he's going to be in the top spot. It's a question of what Biden's able to do to catch up to him. few things here. Underestimated severity of the climate change threat. How can anyone say this? We are told now routinely and repeatedly by the likes of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, by various prominent Democrats, that if we do not take dramatic action on climate change, we will be on an extinction path as a species by in 12 years, I think they keep saying, or 10 or 12 years, something, whatever. How dare you forget? How dare you? It's terrifying. When you don't want to upset Greta. This could be a terrifying thing. Stop child bashing, Buck. She's 17, almost 18. When she's 18, can we actually just make fun of how ridiculous the whole thing is without anyone saying, stop child bashing? I like kids, although I'm going to tell you this right now. I did get to fly Bernie Sanders style in business class by the Bill Maher show. I will give them credit at least. They treat their guests well. They make you get in a plane for 6 hours. They do put you in business class, which is like, I never fly in business class. I always am in the middle seat in the back of economy with somebody eating a big smelly sandwich of some kind next to me. And I am always sitting next to a kid that doesn't want to be on the plane, who's just like kicking the chair and bouncing around like, bah, 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 you know? And I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that childless, unmarried guy that starts to like get frustrated and loses cool. That's why I always bring noise-canceling headphones. Yes, producer Mark.
It sounds like you just don't plan well.
What do you mean? I can't help that I sit next to kids that are loud.
2020, you can pick an aisle seat, a window seat.
Oh, no, that's on me. Yeah.
That's
but I always end up sitting next to the loudest child on the plane. This is a special gift. My brothers actually laugh. If we go into a restaurant together, as we often do here in New York City, and I have two brothers close to my age, and they came out with me to the Bill Maher show because they're my cavalry. They're awesome. Whenever we go to a restaurant, if there is a family with a child who's unruly, I'm cool with kids. I like children. I'm not the Grouch. Or the Grinch, the Grouch, either one. But if there's a loud child in a public place, he will, like a heat-seeking missile, get right up in Buck's universe.
Sure.
It always happens.
It happens to me, too. And
You
I
think
say it's
so?
on the parents.
Well, of course it's on the parents.
Don't bring kids to restaurants, especially at night.
So here's what I had on the flight back. And, it's rare. It's like a special treat for me to fly in business class because, I don't have that kind of cash flow. But if somebody else is paying for the ticket, hey, So I'm in business class, and I'm thinking it's going to be like this fantastic. And the seat right next to me, there's a husband and wife, look like a very nice couple, but I think they had 4 children, right, that were on the flight. And here's what they did. Now the kids were seated back in economy.
Oh.
They're up in business class right next to me, the 2 parents. But guess what? During the flight, they decide that the 4 kids from economy are going to pile up into business class.
Oh no!
And like crawling on the parents, throwing a ball to each other, yelling and screaming. And like, yeah, I went with noise canceling headphones. Other people there did too. But I'm looking at them. I'm like, guys, come on. You know what I mean? Like
the flight attendant let it happen?
Oh yeah. Oh, could you, if you are seen as like, if you're the anti-family person in today's.
Oh no, I would have said something.
You would have said
in
something?
In a second.
Yeah, see, that's why I need to travel with producer Mark.
Even though you didn't pay for it, I would have been like, listen, I paid for a business class seat. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, they were way out of line. They were way out of line. People,
I would have owned that airline.
Yeah, no, people. I don't know what it is. Manners in decline around the world and in this country for sure. Manners are in decline. People in public spaces that they think the device etiquette is the single worst thing. That's where people right now. I want to
throw it out the window.
Yeah, there's actually a campaign in New York City. We could pull up the audio probably for people so they can hear it. Where there's a no idling campaign.
I saw that,
and they've got Billy Idol of Rebel Yell fame, who's doing ads for no idling. Have you seen this?
It's clever.
Yeah,
stupid.
He's like, "Hey, everybody, don't leave your car on. It's not cool to idle."
Did you see they're actually giving out rewards for reporting people that idle?
No, I did not.
Like cash rewards.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
This is what needs to happen. I mean, unfortunately, it starts to feel a little bit like the Stasi's running the country when we're reporting on each other for little things, but quality of life stuff, when all of a sudden you incentivize people to, what I hate are people that really egregiously double park on very crowded roadways and like you'll be going down the most crowded street in New York City. You'll be going down in Midtown Manhattan, and it's just packed, and somebody will just leave their I'm not talking about delivery vehicles. I mean, that's kind of like we accept that if we want deliveries, I'm talking about people just leave their car at their double park.
Yeah.
Towed. No ticket. Towed. Out.
It's Midtown Manhattan. A tow truck's not going to be able to get there quick enough.
But what I'm saying is if somebody would call the tow truck and they got a bounty for that, because that person's he is stealing time from hundreds, if not thousands of other people. It's a little bit like when I get on the subway now 4 times a day, which is insane. And the people that will hold the door open for their friends, I'm not saying we should electric shock those doors, but I'm not saying we shouldn't.
You don't do that.
Come on.
No, the electric shock is fine. You don't hold the door
Oh,
open
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got a little jolt. I don't want to fry anybody.
Like everyone's been there where you're running, the train's coming, and the door just closed. You stick your hand.
No,
in.
that's different.
Okay.
That's you get caught in it. That's like Ty goes to the runner.
Shove the
I'm
door
talking
open,
to people that go, hey, Bob, like hurry up, and they hold the door while their friend is running down the stairs. Those people need to get.
There's videos of people inside the train kicking those people, just to get them out so the door can close.
Oh, I mean that's totally legitimate. Yeah. You're holding other people hostage to your own bad behavior. I do not accept this. So look, as the dude says in The Big Lebowski, this is not Nam. There are rules, and I think that there should be rules here. So I don't know. We got a whole series of things we need to work on, and I could not believe that I was sitting there for like this Captain Kangaroo session of like kids jumping around and stuff in business class, no less, which I never get to fly. It's like I'm not Bernie Sanders. I don't get to roll in first class all the time, or on a private plane, by the way. It was my whole business class experience was not what it should have otherwise been. Although I do have noise canceling headphones, which
doesn't help that much.
Doesn't help that much because like screaming next to you, you'll still hear the screams and everything else. And also just, kids like they wave their arms around. They're like throwing things. They're running up and down the aisles on the plane.
I can't believe the flight attendants
let them run wild. I'm telling you, they didn't do a thing. I can't believe that. Yeah, I don't know. It was crazy. So I'm just trying to tell everybody we all need to be. Manners are important. It's really the linchpin of civilization. Manners day to day. How do we treat each other? Are we respectful? Are we polite? Anyway. I don't even know that. I was talking about Bernie Sanders and climate change, wasn't I? The plastic bag ban. We got on that. And then I got completely sidetracked. Oh! Underestimated severity of this. Yeah, we're not underestimating the severity of climate change. And also, the climate. So that's just crazy because they're saying we're all going to die. How do you underestimate the severity of we're all going to die soon? I mean, instead of we're going to be on in a path we cannot fix in 10 years, it's going to be 8 years. It's going to be 6 years. I don't know how anybody believes this. I don't understand. I tell you when things are scary. Like pandemic disease is actually scary and we have to be worried about. Climate change is not. It's not. I don't know what is wrong with these people. I don't know what has to go through their brains so they can understand. The people telling you this are wrong over and over. What they're saying doesn't even make sense, and they do not change their own personal behavior in response to what they say is an extinction-level event for humankind. It's crazy. When I can get my dream beach house on Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket at, half price, which I wouldn't have enough money for that. It'd have to be like 1/1,000,000th the price, but when I can see the huge cut rates on that, then I would all of a sudden say, all right, maybe people are taking this seriously, but they're not. It's all virtue signaling. It's all crap. His point about climate refugees, though, I thought was even more important. Now, you'll hear more and more about this. Talking about climate refugees is a way of saying that because of the weather, we should engage in a global socialism. And I know that seems like it's a little bit of a leap. It's not a leap at all. We should engage in a global socialism because the first world is responsible, according to the climate catastrophe. We need a better name for them, by the way, like the Looney Greens or something. We need a better name. What do we say? Because they said, do you believe in climate change? They have climate denier for us. Climate catastrophist, it's a little bit too much of a mouthful. We need a better name for people who are so easily fooled and swindled that they really think that the world is going to end unless we adopt the economic and climate policies advocated by by AOC and Bernie Sanders and others. So we need to work on that for one, but also refugee, anyone who moves from where they are around the world now, the first world is under this view that Sanders is advocating is inherently responsible. So if there's a drought, if there's a famine, if there's an earthquake, anything bad that happens anywhere is, in the mind of these climate loons, attributable to the development of the first world and the CO2 emissions from the developed world. And so we owe it to them to pay them money. That's part of the global Marxism here. We should pay effectively climate reparations to them. This is real. They talk about this. You can look this up. This is a thing that's out there. Democrats buy into it, or at least they pretend to. They say they do. But also that we have to take them into this country. So anyone from any desperate region of the world that suffers some catastrophe, some calamity, it's not now that we take them in as refugees because we're good people and we want to be helpful and thoughtful to our fellow human beings. It's we owe them. We have to take them in because the reason there's, forest fires in this place, or the reason there's drought in that place, anywhere in the world, is all of the human productivity that has brought us to the greatest living standards of any at any time in human history. That is the reason for all these bad things happening elsewhere. And so we're responsible for that. And so we have to make amends for that. And the way we make amends for it is by bringing them into this country. That's what is going on. That's what they're telling us we have to do now. This is crazy, but this is mainstream Democrat thinking now. I mean, even Bloomberg runs around talking about this. Even Bloomberg will say that this is something that needs to be dealt with, needs to be handled right away. I'm stunned by the sheer idiocy of so many of these climate change catastrophist positions. And it's troubling to me. We'd like to think that we've defeated the authoritarian impulse in the developed and modern world we're in, at least in the West. We haven't, not at all. In fact, it's on the rise. And there's a confidence among the statist authoritarian left that should be a reminder to all of us that they're not gone. In fact, you could make a very clear case that the socialists, the Marxists, the one world government authoritarians, they're actually on the rise.
President Trump, what is there not to love? He's a fighter. Number one, he's a fighter. He has the Democrats on the run. They don't know what to do with him. Never have we had a Republican that the Democrats cannot mess with. He fights them at their level and wins every time. Trump's never lost. He didn't lose in the Republican primary. All the Russian collusion, the Ukrainian, the emoluments clause, all of that stuff they threw at him didn't stick. And so we love him. He didn't have to do this. He's got a successful life. He didn't have to do this for us. But, you love your country. You don't want to see, your country turn socialist. You don't want to see liberals take over your country and turn it into something. Keep on fighting, sir. We're back behind you all the way. Never will forsake you. We will never forsake you because you're for us. And that means a lot. That means a lot.
That is a Trump supporter named Raymond, who was at a Trump rally, African-American Trump supporter. I believe he had a MAGA hat on. And I think that he really encapsulates the feeling that so many of us have at this point, which is what they've put this president through, the stuff they've thrown at him is unbelievable. And he's still in there, still fighting. He doesn't decide that it's too much. We had all these people that claim to have such close access to Trump, too. I think Scaramucci said that by March of 2020, the president was going to leave office. Like that guy knows anything. I mean, the president picks a lot of the worst people, at least he did in the early days, to be around him, which is a shame because some of the biggest missteps of his presidency were just the people that he trusted and put in positions of authority around him. They were stunningly bad decisions still. And even the president admits this. So I love when people go, "Oh, Buck, don't say that about Trump." Trump says it. Okay. We all know this. This is reality. This isn't my opinion. I'm beating up on the president unfairly. I think the president does a lot of things fantastically, but this is an area where he's been very weak. But the fire that he has in the belly to continue on, and that they've never to this day I know why he says that the Ukraine phone call was perfect, even if he knows that it probably was a little bit, he gave them an opening he shouldn't have. I don't think he did anything wrong, but he could have been more careful. He says it's perfect because he's not going to bend the knee 1 inch. Not going to back off. He knows these crazy libs. He knows what they stand for and who they are and how they play the game. And, you see the old Republicanism, and I don't mean really old. I mean, Republicanism until Trump was Romney and McCain and people who bent the knee all the time in the name of reaching across the aisle. Yeah, just sell out our side. Get a nice editorial written about us in the New York Times before they trash us again next week. God bless Trump for not falling into that.